The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff and management of WWDB TV.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me again on Meet the Candidate. I'm John Stiles. You're not. Today I've got Joseph J. Bradley, who is the candidate for Assembly District 36. Joseph, thank you for coming in and sharing your information with us.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself so we can kind of get to know you?
Well, thank you. This is a great forum, and I really appreciate this chance to speak with people. I'm Dr. Joseph J. Bradley. I am an addictionologist. I am licensed chiropractic physician. I have a master's in substance abuse counseling and education. I have a diplomate and board certification in addiction. I'm a candidate in clinical psychology. I run a private practice as well as run the co-occurring chronic pain and chemical dependency program for Solutions Recovery here in Las Vegas, which is the biggest treatment center in the state. I'm also the lead presenter for Family Days at Solutions Recovery and Desert Hope. And probably the biggest thing that I'm so glad to announce today is I was given the task of putting together a program for our veterans and first responders, and I had just concluded it and have created a program for first responders and our veterans, and we will be a national destination now for those suffering with chemical dependency and PTSD, and we're going to be launching that about mid-June, so we're really excited about that.
Excellent. And I don't get a chance to ask this question very often, but as an addictologist, is that what it's called?
Addictionologist.
Addictionologist, okay. There are a lot of rehab centers out there. There's a lot of treatment for addictions. This is actually a two-part question. One is, most of them are designed for people that have money. What do the person or the people who really can't afford to go to Malibu for 90 days, what do they do? Where do they go? How do we take care of those people?
And you know, that's a very real problem. I also do interventions nationally, and this is what I tell people up front, and then more directly get to your question. The cost of saving your life is far less than the cost of taking your life. The amount of money for rehab is actually far less than the typical person with a chemical dependency spends in a month, 2 months. Actually, one of the things we talk about in group is how much money you've saved since you've been here. If you're a coke or meth or opiate addict, you might be spending $30,000, $40,000 a month. That being said, our program isn't of the same expense as these other places you've talked about. And the other reason I bring that up is because it's really about evidence-based. When you look at rehabs, not all are the same. We are very particular that everything we do is embedded in medicine and science. We are a medical therapeutic modality. We encourage mutual support groups, and our approach is very much driven by scientific research. But now the question of money, those that can't, if we can't help you, if we can't work out a plan, our admissions team is really, really good about helping people get on a plan or to get the help, or if they have insurance. Insurances are accepted. Going back to what I mentioned about veterans, if they're the Veterans Choice Plan, they can ask their local VA and say they want to come here. For those that it's just cash and they don't have the money and something isn't able to be worked out, you know, we always direct them to different places that are then available for them, because there are state-funded places that are
okay. And that, I guess that's my question. That's what I was getting at. And hopefully before you leave, you'll provide me with that information that I can share with our viewers as well, because I know that there are that information isn't really available to the general public. I mean, it's not something that's out there. You see all the ads on TV about going here and going there, but the other ones I've always wondered about. So
it is funny, and not funny, haha, but I just over the years, I've been doing this for a long time, over a couple decades, and when people actually get to the point of wanting help, then not knowing what to do, not
Yeah.
knowing where to go.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're met with so many obstacles. And that's like when I do interventions, one of the things that we do is we prearrange and get everything done for them. And at our treatment center, which is part of AAC, which is one of the biggest in the world, they're very directed towards the person and getting people full care.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of people that have chemical dependency also suffer from other mental illness.
Right. Yeah.
Take away the alcohol and the drug, and what you're left with now is a person that's struggling with other issues. We treat that as well.
And I understand that as a Vietnam vet who suffers from PTSD, and I did my share of drugs in the 60s and was fortunate enough to have some very good friends that helped me get through that. My other question is, now that cannabis is legal in the state of Nevada, has that changed your treatment strategy or your strategy of dealing with addicts? I mean, we've heard that for years that cannabis is a gateway drug to heroin and harder stuff, but it seems to me that the scientific evidence is that it's actually a gateway drug the other way to help with the heroin addiction or addicts. In those states that have legalized cannabis, the addiction rate has gone down 20 to 30%.
And when you're talking about that research, again, we have a couple different kinds of research. One is called descriptive. It's just a raw number.
Right.
And then one is the inferential, where it helps us to predict the future. And there is really no clear study that says that using marijuana makes other rates go down. So that, I mean, it's somewhat misleading. And they have announced, I believe, National Institute of Health, that marijuana is not the gateway drug anymore. It's actually pills.
Right.
But here's the issue. I separate myself emotionally from the discussion on a personal level versus professional.
You have to.
And like, if you were to say to me personally, should my kids play football? I'd say it's great for team building, working together. If you say to me as a professional, I'd say no, the risk of injury is great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer this professionally.
Right.
And my professional opinion is this. When people smoke marijuana, it's to alter themselves. It's to create a feeling that's different than the one they currently have. And so if we just stop there,
Right.
and then we look at any addiction, that's what all addictions are.
Of course. Well, whether it's alcohol or tobacco or I mean, I smoked for years, and I quit, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago, and that was the hardest addiction that I overcame.
Which one?
Tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was horrendous. Anyway, we're kind of off in left field.
But just to finish on that, the science behind the medical purpose, completely in favor of.
Right.
Anything that can reduce human suffering, I'm in favor
Well,
of.
and I mean, if you're talking about the CBD oils and things like that, that
But you
do
don't
not
need-
have the psychoactive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
And that's where I think that we're starting to, as a people and as a nation, starting to open our eyes and not just blindly, outlawing everything because it's part of this. I mean, hemp is one of the greatest products out there, and because it's been lumped in with everything else, and we need to start looking at that a little more closely.
That's the thing. No topic is taboo.
Right.
We can't let our personal views step in the way. I'm a huge favor of morphine and Dilaudid in a hospital post-surgery.
Right.
I don't want it out in the streets.
No, nor do I.
But it has its purpose. Now, going back to marijuana, let's look at Colorado, because we have 5 years.
Right.
They've had a 300% increase in emergency department visits. They've had a 500% increase in calls to poison control for adolescent ingestion, and they've had approximately, I believe, 62% increase above the national average of adolescent usage. So medically, we need to use it where it's appropriate
Right.
to reduce human suffering.
Right.
Recreationally, as a healthcare provider, I don't see the good to the public health.
Well, it's and I'm sorry, but see, I don't see the difference If it was my kids,
Yeah.
I'd rather see them smoking weed than drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes.
And you know, that's
I don't want them to do any of them, but I mean, it's just, yeah, you know, hey,
No,
when I was a kid, it was, you know, you're out there, you know, getting some old wino to buy you
and
booze at the
I
liquor
totally
store.
respect that opinion because but this is always my rebuttal to that. Alcohol is one of the most deadly substances we have.
Exactly.
So comparing marijuana to it is not a good argument. Plus, we tried.
Well, the only argument is that alcohol is legal.
Well, but we tried to make it outlawed. The 18th Amendment.
Yes.
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
Then we have the 21st Amendment bringing it back. But with marijuana, it wasn't. So why are we doing something that can create potential danger versus not?
Right.
And like when you said your kids, not knowing age groups, if someone is
Well, my son's 48.
yeah, so that's yeah. But if we're talking about adolescents,
Right.
I mean, it's not lawful for a 17-year-old to drink.
No,
So-
exactly, and that's right, and that comes down to, you know, parenting and a lot of other things. But anyway,
but I agree. But it's
Right.
but obviously it's a topic where there's a lot of back and forth. But as a professional, from the standpoint of alteration, and I can tell you this, people that say it's not addicting, I can tell you anecdotally it is. We are now detoxing people from marijuana, and the cannabinoid levels are so high that people are starting to have withdrawal, and in some cases people get panic. And so again, it's one of those things where medically, if we're going to treat it medically, have it prescribed, have a pharmacy dispense it. Let's decide what it is, because right now, my opinion is the public are guinea pigs. We're throwing it out there,
Yeah.
and in 5 years we'll figure it out.
Right.
I like to go into things with my eyes open.
right. Well, it's probably been 45 years or more since I smoked weed, but I'm still a proponent. Because I've seen some of the benefits, and when I say smoking weed, that's not exactly what I mean, but
Yeah.
you know, cannabis usage or cannabinoids or whatever. Anyway, so
I just don't
get-
want to see more legislation and restriction. I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree. It's one thing that people do it,
Right.
and then people say, well, the rates of drug usage go down. Well, we could eliminate the murder rate today in the U.S. if we made it legal. I mean, of course.
Of course.
I mean, if we lower the adolescent drinking age to 13, our adolescent drinking age problem will go away.
Right.
So I think we really need to look at it as, because once we say, yes, you can do it, okay, then what does that mean? Anybody? Can your school bus driver do it? Can police do it?
But
And
here's
that's
the thing,
discussion.
okay, and that is an argument, but I don't think it's that valid, and I'll tell you why. Can your school bus driver drink when he's driving?
No, they have to have a certain period of time.
We have the
before.
same laws with marijuana. If you're driving under the influence, you're going to get busted.
And
And
that's
if you're drinking and driving, you're going to get busted. So
and that's a great point.
Right.
And my only rebuttal to that would be this. With marijuana, what we're finding is several hours afterwards where you would no longer be under the influence.
right,
not
but
knowing
it's
the
still
parent.
in your system.
Right, but that's not where I was going. It can cause extreme panic. The reason why emergency department visits went up in Colorado is people were getting shortness of breath, accelerated heart rate, respiration was becoming very
That's
fast.
a good day for me.
But,
No, sorry.
but so even when they're not impaired, they're starting to have symptomatology that
Certainly.
appears to be heart issues.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying, because your point's extremely valid. It's, do we know enough yet to take
No,
the chance?
and we don't, because we haven't had the opportunity.
Yes.
And I think that's this is where we're at now, I think, is going to open some doors to allow us to do some further in-depth studies and investigations and things that maybe we can learn something. We might learn this is good, this is bad, and here's what's in between.
I'm always for learning.
Me too. So I'd like to learn more about you as a candidate,
Okay.
which is why we're here.
Okay.
So, okay, you told us a little bit about yourself, and so what office are you running for? What is an assemblyman for District 36? Tell me about that. What does that mean to me as a resident of Las Vegas?
Okay, well, Assembly District 36 is essentially the northwestern portion
Right.
of Las Vegas, Nye County, Lincoln County. I'm on the Republican ticket, and as an assemblyman, it would be the equivalent of the House of Representatives in Congress.
Right.
So I'm representing.
But this is on the state level.
On the state level.
Right.
So as assemblyman, it's that representation.
So you represent your constituents in Reno, not Washington, D.C.
Or in my case, Northwest Las Vegas, Nye County, and Lincoln County,
Right,
not
right.
Washington D.C.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm saying that you know, you're not going to Washington.
I'm a state representative.
Exactly. That's what I was trying
Exactly.
to get at.
And you know, fundamentally, what it is on paper, you propose bills, try to get things passed, get it through the lower house, get it through the upper house, have the governor sign it. But what it really is what I've been doing my whole life. And that's looking at a problem and addressing it in a reasonable, logical manner where the majority of people are going to be served by it. No matter how loud the people in my district yell, no one in Carson City can hear them. I'm going to be their voice. My absolute concern is to be the voice of the will of the people, not my opinion, their opinion. And I'm going to advocate for what we need. There might even be some things where personally, as we've talked about, I might have a little bit different opinion. That has no realm in here. Professionally, what the majority of my constituents want, that's my goal.
So I have a couple of questions that brings up for me. Number one is you are running as a Republican.
Yes, sir.
The consensus has been, okay, you follow the party line. Now, is that the way you feel? Or if you have your constituents say, this is what I want, and the party is telling you, no, this is what we want and this is what you're going to do, how do you decide which one to do? Or which are you going to do?
You see, that's the thing. So many things that are viewed as difficult, I don't understand the difficulty.
I don't either, but
I'm going to do what is the right thing. The vast majority of
wait.
people.
You're going to do the right thing based on what your constituents say, this is what we think the right thing is.
Based on the needs of my district and the will of the people I represent.
Okay.
Absolutely. When you say party lines, I agree with that in that I will stay within the values that I agree with, which is why I'm a Republican.
Right.
Now, I think when most people say party lines, they mean the people within that. And I really could care less about being popular. I'll do what's right over being popular. And I do have a loud voice, and I come at everything. There's nothing I say that I can't support with numerous research studies. I encourage people to challenge me.
Are you talking about facts?
Facts.
So you're a Republican that believes in facts.
It, above all else, should arise the prevalence of reason. And
Then give me a high five.
anyone that disagrees with me is going to have to show that it's for a reason other than it's what's best for people. And if I go in for 2 years, shake things up, get positive things done, and no one likes me, so be it. If after 2 years they realize this is the way things need to get done and the people want me to still be there, I'll be there. This isn't about me. I'm not running for me. I live in this state, and I don't like where it's headed.
Yeah, I understand that. And hopefully that's why a lot of people run. But so based on your background, or what do you think qualifies you to run for this office? What qualifies you to be an assemblyman from this district?
Basically, the number one healthcare concern right now in the United States is addiction. It's huge here in Nevada and certainly in my district. I treat addiction. That's what I do. When there's a breaking news story, I get calls from media. What's your opinion?
Right.
I have had legislators call me. What do you think about this? I just got to a point where I said, you know, I'm being asked, and then when I hear it repeated, it's not what I said.
It's not what you said, yeah.
And I thought it was time, you know what, I'm going to step out of the stands onto the field. And then it was, I'm getting off the field, I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm not even sending in the plays anymore. So from addiction, I'm a lifelong learner and educator. when I stop learning, I stop living. I continue. When I finish my next doctorate, I'm going to go on for another. As long as I learn, because we all have to keep doing that, thriving.
Right.
But I've also taught at almost every university here in town. I understand education from the perspective of being a teacher, knowing what our needs are, knowing how to convey a proper message to our kids. So when I hear the education problem that we're having, and everyone just thinks it's a money issue, then I look at a state like Utah that has a higher ratio of teacher to student and spend less money. We're ranked 49, they're ranked 17.
Right.
That's not the problem.
Well, I don't think the money's always an issue, no matter what we're doing. There has to be a certain amount of money, but how it's distributed and how it's spent and how it's used, I think, is more of the problem than there not being enough of it.
Exactly.
It's going to the wrong places. It's not going to the students. It's not going to the teachers. It's not going to, and one of my pet peeves, this is personal, is that I hear a lot of talk about the education system here in Nevada and how bad it is. And, well, I'm going to put my kids in private school, and I want to have a choice so I can send them to, this school is bad. So rather than try to fix this system so that everybody benefits, screw you guys. I'm going to take my kids and put them over here so at least they're getting a good education. I don't care what you guys do. That kind of irritates me. I don't think that we're focusing on fixing or correcting that problem, as opposed to, okay, there's a problem there, I just want to give,
And I have kind of a two-part answer to that. First off, I am in favor of ESAs.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of parents should all have the ability to parent and make choices for their kids. I want government as little in our lives as possible. They're here to assist us, not to tell us what to do. But then going back to your point, we need to address the problem at its core. And the core problem here is that, one, there's such a bureaucracy in a waste. And why is it
that's where the money's going?
Why is it that the decision is being made? It'd be like Washington, D.C. telling us what we absolutely need to do in Las Vegas. That's what the district telling the school is.
Right.
The principal, one of the things you'll see on my website is, I said we need to have a panel of principals that get together and they discuss the needs of their teachers and students because they know. And then it goes up to the district and they say, this is what we need, not this is what you get. Secondly, I've proposed, and I think we'll get to this a little later, but how we're going to have more free service of extreme value come into our schools. And I think we'll talk about that in a little bit when we get to some of my points. But the main thing here is, when you look at schools and money spent per child, it's more about how are the child's needs being met. Because, the saying, Las Vegas saying, you've been here for a while, right?
Right.
You don't chase your bad money with your good money.
Right.
It doesn't work. Give it more money. Doesn't work. Give it good money.
Right.
Let's keep hoping. Sometimes you got to step back. And I am a fresh set of eyes on the outside that for years have been saying it, and then I realized, wow, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm the person complaining, doing nothing. Guess what? This year I said, I'm doing something.
Well, I used to know these two brothers that had wanted to go into business for themselves, and they decided that, they were kind of farm boys, and so they had bought a truck, and they were going to drive to Utah and buy hay. Mm-hmm. For you remember over there off of Jones and Farm Road and all that used to be, well, still kind of horse country.
Yeah.
And so they were driving up to Utah, loading up the truck, and they were buying the hay for $2 a bale and bringing it down here and selling it and making 50 cents on, but they lost money, on the whole deal. And the one brother finally figured out, we just need a bigger truck. And I think that's what we're doing with our education system and a lot of other things. Yeah. It's like, well, okay, we'll just, we're losing money. It's not being effective, so we'll just throw more money at it and make it less effective. So
exactly.
But anyway,
it's like, I'm losing all my money. Let's bet more money.
Yeah. I have a brother-in-law like that.
That's what makes you a good gambler, by the way, right?
Yeah. So you had talked about that you have some ideas, you have some solutions to some real problems. What are those real problems? What do you perceive those problems to be within your district?
Well, first off, I'm going to start with, it was going to be my number two, but I'll go to it first since we're just talking about education. And this is an idea that I have conceptualized and saw how easily we can implement it. And what I want to do, what I would propose, my first bill proposal will be every single school in the state of Nevada becomes a intern therapist practicum site. Now, I'll explain that. One licensed on-site supervisor can now supervise, let's say, 20 master's level intern therapists, each providing 25 hours. Now, just to do the math, that's 500 contact hours of master's level therapists in every school, every week.
Okay.
That's 2,000 a month, every school, every week. And here's the best part, for free. They need a place to do it. Practicum sites are few and far between. This provides them a service. Now let's look how that really plays a role. We have IEPs for disability. We have 504s to the environment make it more conducive. How about those kids that are in an abusive home? How about the kids that are at an awkward developmental stage? Kids that are being bullied? Kids that are isolating and feeling alone?
And we've got what, something like 15,000 homeless kids in our school district?
How nice would it be to identify, assist this problem before it becomes a greater problem? And how about prevention? I mean, now you're seeing kids becoming violent. In Nye County, you had a rash of suicides. If we have direct master's level therapists, that many available hours to contact this and resolve it and get it done,
so
there's our answer.
How do you respond to people that would say, that's just coddling the kids?
Coddling the kids means that we're going to act like we're doing something while we do nothing.
Okay.
A master's level therapist is a trained person to address a problem directly.
Okay.
I'm not about coddling. This is about identify a problem.
No, I understand, but you know, it's like, and forgive me, but I'm a former Marine.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taught from day one, don't be a pussy, suck it up.
Yeah.
And that's not a healthy way to do things, you know, if you don't learn to deal with some of the issues that you have.
It has its role, though, in some cases.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to a certain point, but it you know, there's still, you have to have some kind of good there. So,
but we're talking about adolescents here.
Yeah, no. We're talking about young kids and
here's the thing that's happening. Social media right now is the void that a lot of people feel, not just kids.
Well,
but people.
especially in this town, because we have such a transient area.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've I lived here when I was a young child. Went to Fifth Street School, so that's how long ago that was.
It was probably the end of town at the time.
Actually, Charleston and Rainbow, that was the end of town. But you know, then we moved back to California. But I've loved Nevada. You know, this time I came back and it's been like 20 years now. But there's if you take away the gambling, there's something magical about this town, and we come together regardless of our political beliefs or whatever.
We saw that last year.
We saw that, yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I love living here. Is
I think we have I absolutely think Las Vegas is the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, we do have our own style. And you don't realize it till you go somewhere else. And
yeah.
It's almost like people like know there's something different. Say I'm from Las Vegas, they go, "Oh, that explains it."
Yeah.
But you know, after I just
wait a minute, they're closed. It's only 10 o'clock.
Yeah, our streets are dark. It's like, what's going on? But what I was saying with kids, I mean, the internet allows people with a void to not feel it as emptiness. They can create a fantasy world for themselves online,
right,
and then realize that they have no social skills.
Well, and not only that, they don't have to face the responsibilities of their action on the internet.
And a lot of self-importance.
Right.
You know, when you can post your lunch and get 500 likes, there is a sense that you're more important.
Yes.
And then you intermingle with people and you realize I don't have any social skills and I'm awkward.
Right.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that play out. Again, this is the kind of thing that can be addressed. There's simply too much being placed. There's too much need for what I'm talking about being placed on a very limited resource of people. And again, all I got to do is point out recently what we're seeing happening at our schools. Just imagine how many things that would not have occurred. So we wouldn't know the benefits because it would have been addressed right up front.
Right. Yeah. No. I get that. So.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I got more solutions.
Please,
Yeah.
no,
That was
please,
just
go.
fun.
That's why you're here.
Another one is
Because if you don't tell them, they're not going to know.
I'm telling you. Another one is treatment in lieu of incarceration for nonviolent drug offenders.
I firmly agree with that.
Here's the thing.
And you're familiar with the Veterans Court here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I'm not talking about changing drug court. I'm talking about legislative change at its core. How it's done. We spend about $252 million a year incarcerating persons here in this state. And what we have is...
They could go to Harvard for what we pay to house a prisoner every year.
You know, if someone had any illness, they'd be required to treat them. You know, like it or not, and again, not political and certainly not promoting it, but under the Affordable Health Care Act, passed by Congress, signed by the President, and deemed constitutional by the Supreme Court, 3 branches of government, it's deemed an illness. American Society of Addiction Medicine, National Institute of Health, Center for Disease Control, National Institute of Drug Abuse, it's a disease. So now what we're doing is we're trying to legislate criminally a illness. Now, I'm about being tough on crime, but even more than tough on crime, I want to be smart on crime.
Right.
Because the one thing I didn't say before is I'm a former police officer. I was actually a police officer of the year back in 1989, so just dating myself a little bit. But the recidivism rate of with alcohol and drugs right now in Nevada is about 42%. Our recidivism rate with treatment is about 15 after 90-day stay. That's a 27% improvement.
Yeah.
Now, just to do the math very quickly, that's between $40 and $60 million savings per year in the state. But not to mention, we keep families intact.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if you're the main breadwinner, your family doesn't go on entitlements.
Right.
This interacts in so many areas, and people are like, oh, don't you want to be tough on crime? Absolutely. Know how I'm tough on crime? By eliminating it at its source. I don't want drunk drivers. Know how I do that? If a person is an alcoholic that drives, treat their alcoholism, and they don't drink and drive anymore.
Right.
Now, if they are a violent offender, they do their time, but treatment is mandatory in jail.
Right.
But we need to treat the problem.
And that's just it. We have seemed to have lost that somewhere along the line.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm a Republican, and I consider myself very conservative on certain things. Let anyone in legislature argue that one with me. Tell me that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And explain how. Anyone. Republican, Democrat, Independent. There's no way to argue from a fiscally conservative point of view, $40 to $60 million savings a year, keeping our families intact, being compassionate, doing the right thing, and eliminating the problem.
Then let's get back to education for just a moment. Because here in the recent presidential election, one of the candidates was pushing for free education, which is available in a lot of countries in the world. Do you agree with that, or do you see any benefit, or what's the negative to that?
Are you talking, obviously, post-high school graduation?
Right. I'm talking about junior college and college.
I think anything of value is always earned.
But let's say that we used to have a draft, right? So let's say that, okay, listen, I'm going to give you a 4-year college degree, but in exchange for that, you're going to have to work for a certain amount of time in something that's beneficial to your community or your state or the country or whatever, to pay that back, rather than burying these people with debt that they can't afford. And I mean, yes, it's a free education, but you're paying for it on the back end. Doesn't that make sense? Because if you have an educated, and one of the reasons for this show is to help educate voters about the candidates. And an educated populace is going to make us stronger as a country.
See, in conceptually and ideologically, what you're saying makes sense. But the reality is this, I believe. I think that just makes people are going to take it, go to school for 4 years, so they don't have to work, they don't have to engage in real life, they don't have to really experience what life is all about. Our universities now...
Are you saying that the majority of people would do that?
I can't say majority. I can say, obviously, some,
But
a lot,
okay, so
maybe
let's
majority,
just
I
say
don't know.
that 50% just take advantage of the situation, and 50% don't.
Okay.
I mean, don't take advantage. I mean, they take advantage of it, but in a positive way. So now we've got 50% of the population that's a hell of a lot better off than it is right now.
But the question is, who pays for it? When you say we pay for it, who's we?
How about we use Exxon, GE, all of these huge corporations that are paying no income tax, and are shipping jobs overseas, and all of these huge corporations. You know, we focus on the family that's getting food stamps or whatever, and that is such a tiny portion of the overall budget that if we had $10 trillion from these corporations, that offsets that pretty damn good.
I can only tell you from what I see. I mean, because a lot of things ideologically they sound good. I can tell you what I see. You know, we see a lot of people in private practice and whatnot that are on the Medicaid system. Once they're on it, there's no motivation to not be on it. There's no.
In our current system, you're absolutely right.
Right. So when
and that's what I'm saying is it's that with. And it's not just this problem or this problem or this problem. It's this problem.
But you see,
and that's what we need to address is the overall. You know, all of us are guilty.
Exactly.
And we need to change our focus and to change the way we think and think about, you know, what's good for all of us.
If you
what's
and I
going to benefit you and I.
We went into a room for an hour and were forced to come up with an idea on opposing views, and that outwardly it would seem like we're completely in opposition on this. We'd come up with a solution.
You bet we would.
The problem is that, you know, like with myself, I think this country makes it available because, you know, I got on Stafford loans and I did all that, got a job, paying it back. I just foresee this problem. I already see the generation that is currently that we're in are already so entitled, have never done without. They've never really had to suffer. And now we want to give them more. If you don't earn it, and again, I think this country,
but
why
don't
do we
you think
have
that
homeless?
that's a lack of education?
I don't.
And when I say a lack of education, I'm talking about exposure to something other than this.
Well, absolutely.
You
I mean,
know?
we're not going to argue on that with that
Right.
one.
But what I'm saying is that one of the things that when I was in high school, I was a terrible student. I really was. I was a smart ass. I was a class clown. I was all that. I mean, I did just enough to get by. I knew what I had to do to get by so I can get the hell out of high school.
Yeah.
So then I went in the military, got out of the military. Well, I got married and then got out of the military, and I was forced to take a class at the community college because of my job.
Right.
So I thought, well, you know what? I got to take a class anyway. If I take one more, I can get a couple bucks from the VA for VA benefits. And so, oddly enough, my major was psychology. So I took a psychology class just for the heck of it, you know. And I ended up going to school. You know, I worked 6 days a week. I had a family, and I went to school 4 nights a week. Because it was something that I had got past that being a kid.
Sure.
And I got exposed to things other than I was used to. That was the value for me. I mean,
you earned it. You served.
Right.
You did your time.
And that's exactly my point. And we can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be in the military. You know, it can be, you know, cleaning up the streets, cleaning up the parks. It can be, you know, working in the county clerk's office, or it can be, you know.
But you see, this is where we come together, because now you're not saying free.
No, but I am saying free. It doesn't cost you initially, but you pay for it on the back end.
No, but what I'm saying, it isn't free. If a service is provided,
right,
it's earned.
Right.
That's not free.
That's my point. even if the service is deferred until after the education. So in other words, if you, when you were going to school, if that's all you had to focus on.
Well, when I went to school, I also worked.
Right, I did too.
I was the single father. I raised my child.
Right.
The mother, biological mom, wasn't in the picture. So I was forced to go to school, work, study on breaks, take naps when I could, and do all that.
How much better could you have done if you only had to focus on the educational part?
See, that kind of hypothetical, I don't think I would have been better. I might have been worse.
Yeah.
Because it made me the person I am that will never give in, will always overcome, will always adapt. And I can't say that it would have been a good thing, because I did what I needed to do to survive and get through it, as you have.
Right.
And so,
But I'm saying, you are paying for this service, or you're providing a service.
if you're doing a service, then it's not free, it's earned.
That's exactly right, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is that's what we should be focusing on. How can we make that happen?
And what we have to do is change the overall kind of sociological ideology, because right now what happens is you work 40 years from it, and then your kids want it today, that you took 40
Right.
years to earn.
That's our fault.
Exactly.
We did that.
I agree. And it's also the fault of government.
Right.
It really is.
Yes.
It's removing
But that
parenting
is
rights.
us. That's what we've done.
Exactly. I agree with you on that.
You know,
That's,
when we had what, 47% of the population voted in the eligible voters voted in the last presidential election.
yeah, it's crazy.
53% of the people sat on their butts.
Yeah, and you got to think a lot of
Get
it.
out there and vote, you bastards.
And you got to think a lot of that is because they're doing this. You know, it doesn't matter.
But that's what we've been conditioned to do.
Exactly.
My vote doesn't count,
and that's
and
why
it doesn't matter.
And that's why I think it's not on the back end, it's in the front end, it's during and on the back end. If you want to get education, then earn it. You need to do certain things. You're not too good to do it.
Right.
I mean, when I was doing it, I remember one day a week, because it was this one time I had available that I could actually do it. I was working at a gym, and the job I was going around the locker room picking up the towels and putting them in the washer. I wasn't too good for it. I needed the money.
Yeah.
And I was going to do what I needed to do. We have to get people to a place where they feel good about themselves and they want to make their own way. We have to get rid of this, we're going to do it for you.
Right.
Now,
But once you get a
but you
taste
do
of
it.
that,
Mhm.
most people, once you get a taste of that, it tastes good. It feels good.
Oh, yeah.
And-
I think it's impossible to feel good about yourself if you're not earning your
Right.
way.
I've seen it over and over and over again.
Mhm.
You know, that given the opportunity and given a chance, and that's where I think what you were talking about with the therapists in the schools, that could be an extremely valuable asset to the education system.
And see, when you talk education too, let me just digress a little bit. Not everyone's cut out for a 4-year degree.
Of course not.
So we have a lot of trades, right?
Who's going to fix your cars?
Exactly. How about this? Because this is,
I've been in construction most of my life.
it's honorable work. I
Right.
mean, I remember when I was an adolescent, every summer I spent working with my brothers
and-
taping.
Right.
I was a taper.
Yeah, but I was working in construction part-time when I was going to school, and I realized, wait a minute, I can make more money doing this than I can hanging out a shingle.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that was, however, my education helped me because after a few years, I progressed to, I was the foreman, the superintendent, the project manager, VP in construction. So my job was getting things done through other people. So my degree in psych helped me do that. So, that
Well,
it was
here
a valuable.
We're in Las Vegas. Our economy is starting to boom again.
Oh, yeah.
And we need these trades.
Right.
So one of my proposals is this: our CSN 2-year program.
Yep.
Offer the trades in your 2-year program. Think about this. Now the cost as a resident, what is it right now? I want to say it's $23, $33, $40 per
Yeah.
unit. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
something
very
like that,
reasonable.
right.
And you can get financial
Less than
aid.
$50, yeah.
But in less than 2 years, you have now from a college, regionally accredited,
Right.
you have this. So now I can work, and I can work today, but also what can I do? I got 2 years towards a 4-year degree.
That's exactly right.
See, to me, it's all about, and I look at this and I go, Why hasn't anybody thought about this? Why aren't we already doing it? Why aren't we using our 2-year colleges to get these trades? We need welders, we need electricians, we need plumbers.
When I was a
we need
kid,
this.
or when I was younger, and I'm sure you too, junior college was a stepping stone.
It was.
Or it was a, okay, well, let me figure this out. This will give me 2 years to
AA degree is almost
Right.
almost means you got a high school diploma
Right.
now.
Yeah.
It used to
Right.
mean
Well,
something.
high school diploma means nothing anymore, and
Yeah,
that's the sad part.
It means you got through.
Right.
And I agree.
And what's really a heartbreaker for me is that when I lived here as a kid and went to elementary school, when we moved back to California, I sat on my butt for 2 years. That's how far ahead the Nevada school systems was over California. I mean, this was like, tests were like, I got this, I learned this last year.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it's sad to see that what we've become, I think we're coming back. I see signs that we are making some progress.
But how great if you wanted to be a welder, if you could go down to CSN tomorrow, register at CSN, get in the program, and know that this time next year or shortly thereafter, you're going to leave with the ability to go right on a job site and also be 2 years towards a 4-year degree if that's what you chose.
Sure.
And if you didn't, and what would your financial aid payback be at that point? It would be nominal.
Chump change.
You'd be able to pay. This is where we need to be focusing.
Well, in Germany, I had just read an article recently about if you have a job, you are a respected member of the community. It doesn't matter whether you're flipping burgers, whether you're fixing toilets, you know, whatever you're doing. So they don't have that, oh, well, I'm an attorney, you know, that kind of an attitude that, oh, well, you know, yeah, you're just a mechanic, or you're just a plumber, or you're just an electrician, you know.
It's funny because I'm the exact opposite. I'm very good at what I do.
Me too.
But other than pumping gas in my car, good luck.
Yeah.
I wish I had a mechanic in the family.
Right.
I'd save a lot of money.
Well, my stepdad was a mechanic and taught me a lot, so it was, you know.
We that's the thing. See, we all have something to offer.
Yeah.
Every one of us. And if we get in a room and actually see, the whole Democrat Republican thing, I wouldn't change it for anything in as far as belief systems, because it is our diversity as a nation that makes us great.
That's exactly right, and that's why the whole immigration thing kind of makes me sad that you know, we are a fear-based society now. We're afraid of everybody and everything.
But everything is so politicized, right? I mean,
yes.
See, when the word illegal is in front of something, I'm against it.
Right.
Illegal immigration, no.
Right.
Absolutely not. Legal, you know what? If it wasn't for legal immigration, I wouldn't be here.
Well, and having worked in construction, there were a lot of illegals that worked in construction. I never blamed them. I blamed the people who hired them.
Absolutely.
Because they are the ones that were creating the problem. Mm-hmm. These are people that want to come to this country to make a better life for themselves and try to, you know, rise above their situation. But if the guy doing the hiring is okay, well, if you'll do it for $8 an hour, I'm going to fire this guy that's getting 15 or 20 or 30 or whatever.
Yeah, because it's no longer about quality, and it's no longer about my.
It's about how much money can I put in my pocket, because I don't have to pay. You know, I'm paying you half of what I'm paying him, so the other half goes in my pocket.
Yeah, because I'm like 4th generation American. I'm not
Right.
sure. Yeah, so we're lucky that
Right.
that's the country we are, but our ancestors waited and did it right.
Yeah.
And when you look at this.
But the difficult about that, the comparison there, is that we're like, what, 4 times the population in the world now that we were when my great-grandfather came over?
But you know when
sheer numbers.
When Carnegie came to the United States, he had what was it, $13, $14 in his pocket. Took it out of his pocket and immediately put it in our economy.
Yeah.
Now people are coming with like this to put it in their pocket. And
okay, but look at this. So you've got an illegal alien that is paying Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
It's taken out of their check. They don't get that benefit.
But
that goes into the kitty that nobody
again,
gets.
The word illegal in front of anything.
Right. No. And I understand.
Why are they paying Social Security?
Right.
Why do they have a Social Security number?
they've got somebody else's.
See, that's what I mean. It's
But
like,
that's what I'm saying, it's they are not getting that benefit, so they're giving part of that money away that they're never gonna see again. That's the part that we don't talk about. Okay, so let me give you
so
a.
all about it is, if the one thing we can agree on, if the law is distributed equally to everyone, then we're all happy.
Right.
It's when the law is not equally distributed.
Absolutely, I agree. And talking about immigrants, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Veterans Hospital in Reno is basically was started by an immigrant from Greece. He served in the war. He was exposed to mustard gas. He was told, you're not going to live more than a year. Ended up in the Reno Sparks area and became an attorney. Just was very active in the community and ended up being the guy who got the Veterans Hospital up there going. I mean, this was years ago. I was fortunate enough I met his daughter and did a documentary with her about it. So those are the kind of things that there is an enormous amount of potential in all of us as human beings.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
And
thank
how
God
do
for
we-
Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
I always joke and say to people, how many Americans signed the Declaration of Independence? And the answer is none.
That's correct. They
So-
were all Brits.
So
Yeah.
So we have to go back to our basic. I see. What I want to do is, everyone wants. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. Let's pause and let's look backwards a little bit.
Right.
Because our framers were brilliant, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and they came from a place that they didn't like and never wanted to be again, and only they knew what it took. Now we have the Declaration of Independence and then the manifestation, the Constitution.
Right.
Love it. Love our country, as I know you do. That's why we're great. That document's why we're
Right.
great. We're a country. The U.S. Constitution makes us great. And so when we look at that, as long as we continue to live by this, what they put in place, so that we never go back to tyranny. Everyone's like, well, it's a different time now. People change, but people don't change.
Well, that's why we have amendments to the Constitution.
Yes, and that's why they made it stringent, but
Yep.
they were also brilliant enough to know that if enough people thought it, not just a couple.
Right.
And again, it gets into a federal thing, but it makes my point, I think. You know, when they developed the Electoral College, it's because they didn't want New York and Boston deciding the presidency.
Right.
And so-
Because they had the highest population.
Yeah, they
But-
wanted to be equal.
And I go both ways on that, because isn't it supposed to be majority rules? Isn't that basically what we keep saying? You know, the majority is what.
Yes and no. I mean, look at it this way. The House of Representatives represents the people. The Senate represents
Supposedly.
the state. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to
Supposedly.
be.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
The
concept.
Senate represents the state.
Right.
So you have different numbers for that, but two per state. They're all equally important. We need all states to be important and all states to have a say, not the majority of people, because we know where this will lead.
Right.
Okay, if it's going to be all about majority and period, then you're still going to get the heavy populous areas, and people are going to target that area
okay.
to get the vote.
So let me, and I'm not trying to trip you up or anything like
please.
that, but you made the statement earlier about you're going to do what your constituents want.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a majority of your constituents want this. The minority doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not serving the minority. You are serving the majority.
Always. Yes.
Okay.
As long as
but
the
there's
majority is in compliance with law.
Of course.
I'm not going to join the mob because that's the most people.
within the parameters, that
Yes.
are set out by the Constitution.
Yes.
But my point is, there is no electoral college to decide whether or not the decision that you make is the one that you should make.
Correct.
You're basing your decision on, and this is, and I'm not, I don't mean this in any kind of a negative way, but you say, I'm going to do what the majority wants. So we have to trust that that's what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
And
That's the part
the
that's
minority
most
the
important,
minority
trust.
of the people in your district are going to be pissed if they don't agree with everybody else.
And see,
And they're going to think that you're a jerk because, hey, he's my representative, but he's not doing what I want.
like we were saying before we
Right.
started, if you don't have enemies, you don't stand for anything.
Exactly, yeah.
But when you say majority minority, that's case by case. If I make 90% of people happy, 90% of the time, then people that dislike my decision yesterday are going to love me today.
Right.
And then it's all about
Well,
making.
Nobody is going to agree on everything all the time.
Of course.
You know, and-
But that's why when you talk about special interest and all this,
Right.
I've been offered, obviously because of what I do, certain facets have said, they'd endorse me, refused. On my page of endorsements on my website, it's people. So that's all I care about.
Right.
And because I'm in a field where confidentiality is so important, they actually decided to waive their confidentiality to be in support of me.
Right.
I don't care what an organization thinks. I care what people within that organization
Right.
think, or people. I mean, it sounds so political, so I don't know how to say it, but people that know me know that I mean this. I could care less what the popular thing is. I will go tooth and nail, even if I don't 100% agree with it, to represent and do my job and honor my position, because I serve, if I am given the privilege, and it is a privilege to serve, if people say, I want you, I will honor that. That is an absolute privilege. And what's going on today in politics, say one thing, do another, and then depending on who you make the most happy, get you elected. I mean,
Well,
I want to
and-
get back to honor.
Right, and what it comes down to, this is another one of my strong pet peeves, and that is money in politics. That
People
has
buy
killed
seats.
us. That's exactly right, and
Yeah.
that's what we've done. We have, the corporations, and there are some good corporations. I don't
sure.
mean to, but I
Employ
mean,
a lot of people.
yeah, but they basically bought the lobbyists. That's, hey, we'll give you $100 million for your campaign so that you can do all these TV ads and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this show is that I realized in the last election cycle that when I got down to the ballot and I started looking at some of these people, the judges, to be exact, I thought, I don't know any of these people. I don't know anything about them. How can I vote for this guy or this guy or this guy if I don't know who they are? I don't know anything about them. And that's where we have done a really terrible job of, and I know it's hard. I know it takes money to run a campaign, because otherwise, you can only go down the street and knock on so many doors.
Well, and that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, and you
it's-
have to.
But it's been, everything has been that with us, my family. We're doing all the work. We're putting out all the money, and but the thing with money is, and you have no reason to believe this to be true, but I want money. I want to be able to have nice things like everybody else.
Of course.
But money is not my motivator. Now, my father, he was former Marine in Korea, combat vet. He had said to me, he had died of liver cancer, so he's passed. His last words to me, literally, just one day, and he wasn't like the soft sentimental
Right.
type.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about veterans by how much they talk about it, because being a kid, it was always bothering me. I'd bug him. This.
Yeah.
Never talked about it.
Yeah.
Never wanted to talk about it. Anyway, one of his last things he ever said to me when he was still coherent was, always remember, everything in life can be taken from you. Your integrity you must give away. And so money is given to you to take everything from you.
Right.
And people can believe me. They can trust this. I'm telling you the truth. Money doesn't drive me. Doing the right thing drives me.
Okay, but and I also see the other side of that coin is that if I want to get elected, and I truly have a desire to help my constituents and to represent them in whatever capacity I'm doing, I need this money to get this word out. So there are those that will, okay, well, I'll take it, just so I can get to do this. Then you're screwed.
That's
And I don't mean in any money, but I'm saying,
that's where the honor is lost.
Right.
And I mean, just hypothetical. You say to me, here's $1,000. Make sure.
As an individual.
No,
that's
but I mean,
right.
even as an individual.
Okay.
Because I think when it comes to integrity and honor, there's no limits and there's
Right.
no restrictions. You say to me, here's $1,000. Now, if this particular thing comes up, this is really what I'd expect you to do, and I'd be for that $1,000. I hope you realize that I'm going to do the right thing all the time on everything, and you may not always agree with
Right.
it. If you still want to give it to me, I'll take it. But if you don't want to, keep it. I will never, ever jeopardize the only thing I have in life, and that's me as a person.
So it would not be appropriate for me to say, if you get elected, you owe me because I let you be on the show.
Exactly. But, however, oddly enough, I get elected, this forum will have assisted me.
Of course.
And so I would obviously, just out of the sense of it's a great forum,
I understand
encourage it. And that's what capitalism is.
Of course. And it's, if you're providing a valuable service, and there are other people in this town that do what I'm doing here, and I welcome that, because if there was no competition, I would not always be trying to do something better.
Exactly.
And if I was the only game in town, I wouldn't care, because you can't go anyplace else. But the fact that there is competition is what helps make me better. And I, like I say, I came up with this idea a few months back. Actually, it was after the election. But like I said, when I have a forum that these people can come and tell their story and why. Now, whether I agree with you or not, and there's a lot of things that we don't agree on, but at least you've had an opportunity, and the voters can make an informed decision. They can better decide for themselves. Okay, I like what this guy has to say, as opposed to the other one. And speaking of that, why should your constituents or the people in your district vote for you as opposed to anybody else that's running for this seat? And I don't really off the top of my head know how many other people are running.
There's two other for the primary.
Right.
I would say it's actually very simple. Given the nature of the problems in our current climate, I am the most qualified. I deal with, treat, either directly or indirectly, almost everything that is a major concern right now that's going on. We didn't even bring up being former law enforcement,
right.
You know, the whole thing with guns, which never came up. I have a whole solution.
I try to stay away from that because
but I have a whole solution.
People think we're trying to take your guns.
Guns on school. Someone asked me the other day, they said, why do you love guns? And I said, it's an inanimate object. I don't love it.
Yeah.
I love our country. I love our Constitution. I love the people that I want to be able to defend, and it gives me the ability to. It's just an object. I don't love this mic, but it allows people to hear me.
Yeah.
I mean.
And I understand that, but do you need an assault weapon to do that?
Again, when you start getting into a bump stock,
yeah.
like you could ask me flat out, do you
right.
think bump stocks? Anything that makes something that is otherwise legal, illegal, again, illegal.
But
if
what,
it has no
what
other
I'm saying
purpose,
is
then
an assault weapon is used for only one thing, and that's to kill people.
That's not true.
I built the shooting park up here on the end of Decatur.
But I mean, if you're talking like an AR-15,
yeah,
right? I mean,
right.
People say assault weapon.
And that's basically what I'm talking about is, semi-automatic.
But I mean, it is just a semi-automatic.
Right.
I mean, it's not an automatic weapon. It's
right.
semi-automatic. And it does, it dispenses one round with every trigger pull. And if you are a person that likes to target shoot, then you enjoy it. I actually very much enjoy shooting.
Right.
To me, it's fun.
And I do too.
And I would argue, and I don't want to get into an area that's very unpopular to talk about, but I would argue, and I don't want to give anything out there, that assault weapon, as people say, causes probably less damage than at least 10 other things I could say right now they used.
Yeah, but
the argument is flawed.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's what always happens is, okay, someone says this is a bad thing. This pen is bad.
Yeah, get rid of it. Because you can stick me with it.
But wait, so what? Pencils are bad.
Get rid of those
markers are bad.
Yeah.
They're the markers but that does not diminish the fact that this is not a good thing.
But when
instead of saying, okay, you know, maybe you're right. Let's take a look at this. You know,
It's all about reasonableness.
that's the key that we've lost.
But
We
look-
have lost that in the last 10, 20
But
years. I
also-
don't know where the hell it fell off of the side
And
of the
you're a
road.
factual guy. I mean, gun-free zone, right under it, put down, unless you're a criminal.
Yeah,
I mean, anyone that's willing to commit, this is why gun laws to a certain degree bother me when they talk about heightening it. If you're willing to commit murder,
but
isn't murder the worst?
Yes.
I'm not worrying about a gun law.
yeah, but my point is that a lot of the things that the, you know, gun law advocates are really talking about is better background checks. Don't let the mentally ill have weapons.
See, now I do want to mention that
Please
one now,
do.
because that's an
Please
important
do.
thing to me. First off, the first part, I have a CCW.
Right.
So I had to.
Most Republicans do.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Democrats like their guns too.
Yeah, I do.
So, you know, had to have the course, had to qualify, had to go through a background check.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so I have one. But
Doesn't that make sense? You
It
got to
does.
do that to drive a car.
But if you're a felon, you would just steal one and not have one.
Right.
But if we restrict my ability to have one, you have one and I don't because I'm a
Okay,
law-abiding
so-
citizen.
so-
but I
so-
want to cover the mental illness
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Only 4% of all gun violence is committed by someone with a serious mental illness. Again, it's a diversion. We need to tackle this, but that is a bad way to tackle it.
Okay, so it's only 4%.
But I'll
Can't
tell
we
you-
eliminate that 4%?
I want to tell you why that's dangerous.
Okay.
It's already difficult enough for people to recognize they have a problem and then get help. Do we really want to ostracize the population that needs help from getting help? Is now they know there's one more thing they may lose if
Okay.
they do? And I've thought about this really in depth. If so many people, when they come to terms with, I have a mental illness, they don't want to accept it,
Right.
but they finally do. Now they're going to maybe lose a right? Are they going to get help? I would argue 4% is going to jump to 30 because people that are currently getting help will stop. I think it's a bad idea to focus on any one group. That is just another form of wrong term, racism, sexism. We're focusing on a population.
If you have been released from a treatment facility and you currently have been diagnosed with some type of mental illness, now you've been diagnosed. You know you have it. Everybody else knows you have it. But you can still go down and get a gun.
So, but do you want to be the person, so you as a doctor that gave a diagnosis, you can override the Constitution. You. I don't know about you. I don't want that responsibility. That's too much
But
responsibility. to
how
give
do you
people.
mean you can override the Constitution?
You assign a diagnosis.
But I assign a diagnosis if you are, if you have
But look at the power.
killed someone.
Well, that's different. Now we're getting into a whole different area.
No, we're not. It's just
But
a
that's
matter
not a
of degrees.
diagnosis.
It's a matter of degrees.
If you kill someone, then you have a right to a trial by a jury of your
Right.
peers
I
in
understand that.
accordance with the Constitution.
So as a judge, you can override the Constitution by convicting someone, or I mean,
the
I'm,
jury
I'm,
convicts.
I'm over,
the judge,
I'm oversimplifying.
No, I know
but
what you're
yeah.
doing, but what I'm trying to do is make it a little bit more complicated. Saying, let's not have one person have so much power. If a person could say you're schizophrenic with
But-
psychotic features,
okay.
boom, no gun.
All right, so
So if you're schizophrenic, are you
I
going
have
to
a
seek
friend.
help?
I have a friend who has epilepsy.
As long
okay.
as he's taking his medication.
The medication doesn't work.
Okay.
She has an implant, one of the bzzz,
Yeah.
and every 5 minutes, bzzz.
That's,
So
that's
she cannot drive a car
yeah.
because of that.
Mhm.
But she has a gun. She can own a gun.
I can answer that quite clearly.
Please.
Driving is a privilege. Second Amendment, right to bear arms. There is no right to bear a horse, which
So,
we could wait.
so if
we
I'm
could
carrying
late-
if I'm carrying a weapon
But let me
and
finish
I
this.
suddenly have a seizure,
Okay, but let me say, there is a constitutional protection. We could interpret that a horse means a car. It's a privilege. We're talking about a right. If we're going to take away a person's right, we better be.
we do it
really,
every single
really-
day. We do it all the time.
And it's wrong every time it
Right.
happens.
But I'm saying, isn't there some middle ground? Isn't there some solution?
There is.
Instead of saying, we're not going to do that. And the other side is saying, yes, you are.
I think
Can't
there-
we,
I
can't
think
we
there is
find a way to,
I think there is a solution.
instead of saying, bullshit, my Second Amendment rights overrides everything?
let's first say, and I'm not saying that. I hope you're not hearing
No,
that.
no, no, I didn't take it that way.
A firearm is as dangerous as that pen.
Exactly.
Until a human touches it.
Right.
Right. I mean, you know, the rules
Guns
of
don't kill
firearm.
people, people kill people.
And people think that's cliche.
Right. No, it's not.
You can't stop.
I fired every single handheld weapon the Marine Corps had.
Exactly.
And the flamethrower is my absolute favorite.
That's so funny because my dad said that.
Yeah,
He
it
loved,
is.
He loved the flamethrower.
The awesome power behind it. I mean,
But it doesn't do anything. People think you drop it, it goes bang. It doesn't.
No.
You have to pull the trigger.
Yep.
Hammer has to come back, has to hit. I mean, the problem is when I listen, it probably aggravates you too. You listen to the people proposing what gun laws should be, and some of them, you know, they've never even handled one.
Right.
I love it when people think AR means assault rifle.
No, it doesn't.
It just doesn't,
Yeah.
right? Or automatic rifle. No, it doesn't.
It's an M16.
It's like your whole premise is wrong. Here's the thing where I think we have to settle down. When someone has evil in their heart and is meaning to do wrong, they're
They're going to find
to.
a way to do it.
It's how do
Whether
we,
it's a gun, whether it's a
how
knife,
do we
whether it's a
limit
car,
it?
whether it's a bomb, whatever.
Exactly. How do we limit it? But that being said,
And that's the whole mental health issue
not necessarily.
in this country.
But mental health, there are people that get in dark places that might even go on a legal 2000 hold that are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But in that moment, they were in a bad place and they needed help.
But that is mental health.
That is
whether
mental
it's
health.
for a moment or whether it's for a year.
But there's a big difference between someone having an issue that's either managed, someone having an issue that is environmental or situational that resolves, and someone having something that makes them dangerous. And I can say to everyone out there that makes this argument, statistically, people with mental health issues are one of the most passive portions of our society. The ones that have the mental health issue don't tend to be aggressive.
Yeah.
So we need to look at what's really going on and not just, it's all diversionary. And it goes back to President Kennedy. How could someone have done this? Because if that could happen, then we're all vulnerable.
Yep.
And so what people are doing is rushing to make a thing, and now it's like mental health. Go after that. That won't fix the problem.
But see, I see mental health as a very wide ranging, whether it's depression, PTSD, manic depressive,
But none of those things mean you're
drug
going
addicts
you're
or-
going to kill somebody.
No, I understand that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if we can deal with that better, because we don't.
I think
You of all people should know that we
absolutely.
really don't deal with it very well at all in this country or anywhere.
When we're in a position to deal with it, we do very well, but the opportunity for it is
That's it.
limited. And when people come in and to get treatment, they get better.
Yeah.
But what do we have? 180,000 veterans on a waiting list right now to get help for PTSD. I me it's insane. The
That's
second
nationwide.
leading,
But I got to
yeah,
tell you
nationwide.
what,
The second
right
leading
here in
cause
Nevada,
of death in veterans is
here in Las
suicide.
Vegas, the VA here, the hospital, the clinics here are far superior than any health care
Oh,
I've ever had.
The veterans, the VA in the state of Nevada is
phenomenal.
Is really good.
The once you get in,
And-
the waiting list getting in, but that's not Nevada's problem. That's a federal problem.
And the veterans choice,
Yeah.
the choices here in Nevada are really good. And my answer's always been, it is federal, but can't we at a state level assign a local liaison? Because here's the problem with that, and we're getting off topic, going back to something else equally important. There's a disconnect between choice program, the VA, and the civilian doctor. Huge disconnect. That civilian doctor's first question is almost always, where's your insurance card?
Right.
And oh, I don't have one. Oh, geez. Well, what are we going to do? Well, they sent me here. Now another month. Oh, you know what? You came to the wrong place. Let me get you a specialist. What if we had a local liaison that the state could facilitate easily to make the connection between the choices, the VA, and the civilian offices, so that the veteran just needs to show up? It's such an easy fix.
Yeah, listen, I love it here, and I have a friend in California who has to use the VA choice because it's like 65 miles to the nearest veterans facility. So, and he's happy.
But
He's getting the care that he needs and that he wants, and
once they
so,
get in and
yeah.
get the help, it's excellent care.
Right.
Excellent care. But I'm going to resolve the whole no gun on school problem for you real quick.
Okay.
Because here's our answer. Do we arm teachers? Do we not arm teachers? Right? A great debate there, isn't it? Do we allow this? Here's the answer. When 2 police show to a school, no one has a problem with 2 police showing. 2 police coming together can often mean one's a reserve. The majority of the U.S. military is reserve.
Right.
We have reserve fire, reserve police. Here's what I suggest. We produce in the state, another bill proposal of mine, a different level reserve police officer status, that your peace officer powers are only good on school grounds in school emergency, period.
Right.
Now you're a teacher and you say, you know what? I'd like to be a reserve police officer. Good. We have a abridged academy for you. We teach you powers of arrest, firearm training, and know what's also really cool about this? Evidence protection, preservation of scene. And now you go through it. You're not a teacher. Well, you're a teacher. But in a time of emergency, know what you are now? You're a peace officer.
Okay, so where do I carry my weapon?
As a reserve police officer?
As a teacher.
Okay.
I'm a teacher who is also a reserve officer. Are you talking about this as, because if you're someplace else, I'm assuming you're talking about an active teacher in a classroom who is also a peace officer.
I'm thinking there would be so many that would do this at any given time. There would probably be numerous.
Okay, so when the police come in and somebody's got a gun, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to shoot your ass.
No, because as we see...
No, yeah, they are, because they've proven it over and over again.
The situation is coming to its conclusion almost always when police are coming on scene and the carnage is already there. As a reserve police officer, you know what you're going to have? You're going to have an issued weapon, and you're also going to have access ID. You're not just a civilian anymore. Know what you are? This is officer such and such, blah, 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 at such and such. We have an active shooter situation. I am in the northwest perimeter. Have police respond from this direction, this direction. I'm wearing this and this and this. I'll be this. Because now you're acting like a professional. You're no longer a civilian. In a time of emergency, you are a peace officer. And you are going to have a response time now of immediate, not minutes. And if multiple, now we have coordination. If me, you, this, and we do training. We go to training every quarter. You know how we plan for an incident in our school?
How much more does a teacher get paid to do that? Their job is tough enough.
You know what reserve police officers get paid? Nothing.
So
it's a voluntary thing.
We're going to add additional burden on teachers.
We're not going to add that. They choose to do it voluntarily.
Okay, and so what if nobody in this particular school chooses to do that?
Then in that particular school, they don't
They're
have
screwed.
that service.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
that's great.
And I'm being a little bit facetious,
but we can look at it this way, can't we? You know how many teachers right now are? I know 2, just on the top of my head, that are reserve police officers, that are teachers.
Right.
And if you open this up, I think you're going to see more willingness to do it than not. I think you're going to see at least, I mean, it's purely hypothetical, right? But 1 or 2 at every school. I just can't imagine that they wouldn't. You get these young teachers coming in, it's one more thing, and they're all wanting to be involved. They all feel helpless and hopeless if an emergency happens. People are going to step up.
Yeah.
I think what this country has done, and to a certain degree the question indicates, but I know that's not you, but you had to ask the question, is that everyone is feeling helpless, hopeless, like nothing can work, and we're not putting enough faith in the fact that at the end of all of it, Americans are good people.
Yeah,
Nevadans are
Yep.
good people.
Yep.
We're good people. And we showed that on October
Yep.
2nd. My office, we actually, not something I talk about a lot, we saw 28 families for free following it, the people that were directly there. And I was offered to go on a couple different shows. Didn't want that kind of thing. We just wanted to help people. And, you know, the stories that they told and the things I heard and kind of putting together my own belief systems, the active shooter protocol in the United States is this. First, run. Number 1. Pretty simple, right? Number 2, hide, conceal. Number 3, if necessary, fight back. That's active shooter protocol. This is what occurred to them. They ran. They hid. There were ricochets. They realized they couldn't fight back, so they ran again. So it went 1, 2, 1, not 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And so security, one person in particular told me, went to security, first question was, do you have a gun? This is an adolescent that asked. No. Her response is basically, you're worthless to me then. We're not defending ourselves in the manner. You were in the military. You didn't rely on the goodwill of your enemy.
No.
I mean,
yeah, because that was non-existent.
But we talked about this. One of my best friends in the world, I said to her one day, what was your opposition to firearms? And she goes, I never want to have to shoot someone. I go, we 100% agree. Neither do I.
Yeah.
I never want to. I never want to have to.
But
I can defend
there are
myself.
those people who are, that's their wet dream. And you know that to be a fact.
I think there are, but you know, being in the military and you were combat?
Yeah.
Well, then we all know that once that dream came true, if you are a normal person, it's a nightmare.
Yes.
So that individual that has this thought process, and
they're missing something.
Yeah, and see, and I'm on record that the new psychosis is narcissism. See,
Yeah.
I argue that the person that does these shootings, that's not a psychotic. A psychotic wants to be in your face, stick a knife in your chest, and watch you. A narcissist wants to be away from the carnage and feel in power and control. So,
and that's I've seen some proposals where, I don't know, it may have been on the internet or someplace that said, okay, here's a proposal. Any mass shooter or killer or something like that, you do not mention his name, you do not show his picture. He's referred to as shooter number 38.
Suppression of the freedom of the press.
Yeah. And so that there is no, well, I'm going to be remembered, or I'm going to be recognized or whatever. No, you're not.
Because people do look for fame, don't they? But
course.
you know what? The one thing is that we saw what happened in Florida. He didn't want to die. As soon as the police were on scene, actually coming in, he was mingling and leaving just with them. He wanted to get away. I had a friend I worked with one time that he did a stint with the Secret Service, and he had said ultimately it's not about stopping someone. He goes, if truly someone is willing to give their own life to do something,
you've lost the battle already.
It's whose life will it be?
Right.
And the job of the Secret Service is it's theirs instead of the president.
Right.
And so we have to realize that when this event happened last year, this one person did this. What's one simple fix that hasn't happened yet? Why do we not have sensors on every single window? That if shattered or broke, which means even if shot from inside, the office is immediately notified and police are told immediately. Why has that not happened?
We have them in our houses. Some of us do.
I mean, but isn't that the most simplistic of fixes right now? And see, here's the thing. It's almost like UFOs. No one likes UFO talk more than the government. Because while you're talking about UFOs, they can work on their top secret project, right? It was like that big black bird-looking plane, right?
Yeah.
The bomber, the stealth bomber. And that's what's happening.
Which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Yeah, because I was out some years back. I was out at Nellis. We were doing some stuff at base housing, and watching this thing coming in doing touch and goes.
Yeah.
And was just awe-inspiring.
Looks nothing like a plane, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be from another place.
Yeah. So.
And that's what's happening. Our attention is getting distracted.
Yeah.
When I hear, I found it appalling that kids were being used to do a political agenda. I didn't like that at all.
But wait. Look what happened in the 60s. I mean, kids are the ones that helped turn this country around.
But they did it by organizing amongst themselves,
of course,
not
they
by
did.
having adults organize them.
Yeah, but so be a little more specific. Are you talking about the Parkland kids?
I didn't like that it was being made political. I didn't like that
but
kids were being
everything is
organized.
political.
Everything is political, but it shouldn't be for a singular political gain. It needs to be for the benefit of the majority of people and not to get an agenda across. If those kids are being heard so we can say we need to make changes, let's talk, that's one thing. If they're being heard to say guns are bad, you've already lost half the one
Of
ear
course.
off the head. And this is the problem that frustrates me.
But
Because-
those kids have got a kickstart in the butt.
Yeah.
And I think if you watch them, you're going to see them develop into a more diverse, well-rounded
I agree.
movement.
And they're going to be more mature.
Yep.
And as a
and
result
and
of
because
this,
in what 73.4 million millennials are going to turn 18 by the next election.
I'd never like when people are heard. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
You know.
You don't have to agree with them,
Exactly.
but you have to agree with the fact that somebody's listening.
Right. I mean, if
And isn't that your goal?
absolutely
To listen to your constituents?
I've always said to people, if it was up to me to have my opponent be, gagged, I'd make sure it didn't happen.
Absolutely.
Because here's the current political climate. You're so bad, you should vote for me. Here's my way. I have nothing but good things to say about my opponents, and I'm sure they're worthy. I know they would probably do a good job. But I'm better.
Right.
Vote for me because I'm better.
One of the things that impressed me about John McCain was that, I think if you remember this during the debates when he was running against Obama, and the woman that he had handed the microphone to was talking about, Obama being this and that, and he took the microphone away from her and he said, "No, ma'am, you're wrong. He's a fine gentleman, and he's a good American," and blah, blah, blah. And to me, that impressed the hell out of me.
Absolutely.
I because it showed that he still had some integrity left,
you
even
know,
after Sarah Palin.
I'm
sorry.
watching slam ads left and right.
Yeah.
And I've actually have maintained, not politically correct, I guess, I have a friendship with both.
Right.
I mean, I like both of them, and we actually interact and have a dialogue. Because if I win, I'm telling you right here, right now, I will do a great job. If one of them win, I'm going to help them do a great job.
course.
I mean, this is not about me.
Right.
I just
If
think
the other guy wins, I'm taking my ball and going home.
I think I'm just the best person. And so okay, you're laying on the ground and I step over you and I'm victorious. No, I want you standing right next to me and people looking at both of us and saying you're better.
Reaching down, give me a hand and help me up, and then.
Yeah, that's what I'm about.
Okay, and we're kind of running out of some time here, so why don't you?
You mean we can't talk for more time?
Yeah,
This is fun.
Yes, we can, but people are going to get tired of hearing us rant.
Oh boy.
So look in the camera. Let's give us your name,
Okay.
what you're running for, how we can get in touch with you, or your website, any of your contact information, if you would, please.
Absolutely. My name is Joseph J. Bradley. I am Republican candidate for Assembly District 36, and my website is www.drjbradley, and that's doctor spelled out DOCTOR, letter J, and then Bradley, BRADLEY.com. And if you go on there, you'll see my issues. You'll see why I'm running. But the most important page, I think, is my motivations page, because it actually says for each topic that we've talked about today, why I am so motivated for it. Just as an example, first responders, I was one. Our veterans. My mom was in the Navy. My father is a former combat Marine. And so on and so forth. Healthcare. I'm in healthcare. I treat addiction. So I have a passion for everything that I'm doing. But my passion is where emotions stop. A fact is absent of an emotion. I will be driven by my passion, but I will always lead and be tempered by facts. And if you give me the privilege of serving, that I will do. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley, thank you very much
Thanks,
for
sir.
taking the time to come here and helping us educate the voters.
Thank you.
I wish you luck. I hope that you win the primary, but I hope you don't win the general.
And today's your last day to register over in my area. You
Yeah.
can vote for me. No.
I'm already registered, and I think the early election starts in like 2 or 3 days. I think
Yeah, it starts Saturday.
Monday, Saturday. Yeah, okay. Because I always get out there on the first day, and I'm always pleased to see a good turnout, and I hope that you'll all turn out and vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote because you wouldn't listen to me anyway. But please, exercise your right, encourage your friends, get out there, vote. I know that a lot of people don't think the primaries are important. Believe me, they are more important than the general election is.
That's very true.
Because that's who's going to decide, you're going to decide who the final candidates are going to be. And if you sit on your butts at home, you're going to lose.
And after the primary, he'll be probably my campaign manager for the general. I'll have won him over by then.
Okay, you got it. And don't forget, if you get elected, don't forget who got you there.
That's right.
Anyway, thank you all again. You know, we here at WWDB TV appreciate all of you, all of our viewers worldwide, and all of you people locally. So thank you again, and come back and see who we're going to have next time. See ya.
Thank you.